everyone, I'm Spider-Man 1991, and I like to read comic books, and these are all the comic books I bought for the week of September 24th, 2014. Let's get started with what I got from DC Comics. First off, the only title that isn't tied into Futures End this month, Batman Beyond Universe number 14. This is the second and final part to the Mark of the Phantasm story arc, which is sort of telling the reader what happened prior to the start of the new Batman Beyond series that led to Terry McGinnis sort of ending his partnership with Bruce Wayne, and why he started to work with Dick Grayson. Basically, the issue picks up right where the last one left off in Neo Gotham, with Dick and Barbara explaining why they cut ties with Bruce and how Barbara was pregnant with Bruce's child, but when she tried stopping the mugger, she lost the baby, and after that, they all pretty much went their separate ways. And as they finish the story, Bruce tells Terry that he's located Vigilante's homing beacon, and Terry goes off to see Vigilante, while after Terry contacts him and tells him this, Bruce is still in the cave, and he's visited by Phantasm, aka Andrea Beaumont. So Phantasm has a conversation with Bruce while Terry locates Vigilante, who's been injected with apparently the original Joker toxin, and he's just basically full-on Joker crazy mode, and he's with the other Jokers who Terry's able to take care of, but then ultimately Terry has to fight Vigilante, and they're shortly joined by Phantasm after she finishes her conversation with Bruce about how Jake Chill is the guy who killed Terry's father, and also that he's basically the grandson of the guy who killed Bruce's parents. And then after Phantasm shows up, Terry has to deal with Phantasm to make sure she doesn't kill Vigilante. And unfortunately, though, Vigilante dies because the Joker toxin caused him to have a full-blown seizure. And the next day after Jake Chill is cremated, Terry talks to Dana and Max about it, and they tell him that Bruce told them everything about what happened, and so this freaks Terry out. He goes back to the Batcave and talks to Bruce about how he's sort of reaching out to Terry's friends behind his back, and Bruce and he and Terry basically have a conversation where that leads to Terry to saying, "You know what? You're right, Bruce. Partners are overrated," and so he leaves. And meanwhile, Phantasm returns to go speak to her boss, Amanda Waller, about what happened, and about the involvement of Jake Chill in the murder of Terry's parents, alluding to Project Batman Beyond, which, if you saw the Justice League episode Epilogue, you know that that's basically a program Amanda Waller started to try to make sure to give the world another Batman. Okay, and after that, the rest of the issue just involves Terry returning to the Justice Lord's timeline, where he's with his counterpart, and also he meets that timeline's version of talks to that timeline's version of his father, and also also Ghoul, who you may remember as the Scarecrow-like Joker, is teaming up with Davis Dusk and Ink. Okay. Overall, I would say this story was very interesting. It definitely had a lot of references to the Batman Beyond cartoon as well as Batman the Animated Series. Although, despite the title Mark of the Phantasm isn't really that central of a character in this. I mean, yeah, she's involved in a way as going after Jake Chill, and then and also the conversation with Amanda Waller, but I just don't feel like Phantasm wasn't really that much of a central focus character in this. It was really more about Terry and Bruce, obviously. So, yeah. Also, if you haven't been reading the series regularly like I have, I just started I only got this series because of the last issue and also this issue. So that little bit at the end that involves Terry and the Justice Lord's timeline, you may have to go back and read a bunch of the previous issues of Batman Beyond Universe to understand what's going on exactly. And also the things involved with Ghoul, too. So, but overall the story the story's purpose was to sort of establish why Terry started working with Dick Grayson instead of Bruce Wayne, and I think that's what they did, what they accomplished with that. Even though this series had a lot less, it didn't have any flashbacks like the last issue did, but hey, I'm okay with that. But overall, I would say it's a great series. Okay, it's by Kyle Higgins wrote it, who wrote the last Nightwing series, so I really enjoyed it. Also, I do feel encouraged. Also, after reading the 2 issues, I do feel encouraged to probably check this series out when it comes out in trade paperback form. So yeah. Overall, I think if you liked Kyle Higgins' writing, if you like Batman Beyond, and you are curious about what exactly happened that caused Dick and Barbara to cut ties with Bruce, and then what exactly caused, and if you started reading this series and you're wondering why Terry's working with Dick Grayson instead of Bruce Wayne, then you'll get your answers in this issue and the last one, 13 and 14. So yeah, overall, Batman Beyond Universe, definitely a buy. Alright, next up, time for the features and one-shots with Booster Gold! Alright, so basically, this is an interesting issue because there are 2 versions of Booster Gold featured in this. One version, the New 52 version of Booster, is pretty much being tortured by some, and well, he's basically hooked up to this like red cable, and he's being tortured by this unknown enemy who's trying to find out the location of Vanishing Point. And and we also have an older Booster Gold who, okay, I'm trying to get the 3D cover right. Okay, that's New 52 Booster, and yeah, I can't really get the thing to change well in range. Oh wait, yeah. And an older Booster Gold who does seem to be the pre-New 52 Booster. Well, it's implied that he might be the pre-New 52 Booster. It's not confirmed. But anyways, old Booster is traveling through various Earths, like Earth 4 that featured the characters that were originally from Charlton Comics. Even a future where there's the Legion of Superheroes. Even the world of Kamandi with the Tiger People, which were featured on the cover. You can probably see those briefly. Anyways, he's traveling through all these alternate Earths until finally he winds up on one where he's reunited with his sister, or rather a version of his sister Michelle, and then suddenly they both travel to the location of the New 52 Booster. And of course they free the new Booster and try to escape, but they can't. They all get captured, and then Michelle's being tortured, and New 52 Booster suddenly agrees that if he leaves Michelle alone, he'll tell them where they can go for Vanishing Point. And the last caption they have on the last page is "to be concluded at the end of Future's End and World's End." So yeah, basically, I remember that when I watched DC All Access, which is DC's weekly YouTube show, they said that there was going to be a lot of stuff going on the Booster Gold one-shot that would tie into Future's End and World's End, and it does seem like that's the case. That there is a lot of stuff happening in this. You know, we are seeing a bunch of alternate Earths, so obviously that could later play into the whole upcoming Crisis story arc that could be happening soon. And but really, I think the real people who are going to enjoy this issue are probably Booster Gold fans, and also people who are reading both the Future's End weekly series and the Earth 2 World's End weekly series, because it implies that this one shot's going to be concluded at the end of at those 2 weekly series. So really, if you're getting those 2 weekly series, and also you like Dan Jurgens' writing and doing some artwork in Booster Gold, he doesn't draw the entire issue, but he does draw the pages where we have the New 52 Booster Gold. So yeah, if you like Dan Jurgens on Booster Gold, I would definitely say this is a buy for you. Next up, Flash Future's End one shot. All right, so this was actually very, very great. 5 years into the future, Blue Flash finally kills the Reverse Flash before he causes the accident that kills Wally and paralyzes Iris West. And shortly after Blue Flash kills Reverse Flash, the the President shows up, usual Red Flash, who apparently has a computer installed in his mask to tell him how far he runs and how much time that would burn out in the Speed Force. So President Flash shows up and he fights Blue Flash, but then Blue Flash unmasks and tells him that basically he's going back in time and trying to heal the Speed Force. Well, basically he's trying to heal the tear in the Speed Force to a point where it was small enough to heal, because at the point in time where he's from, it's too big for him to fix. And of course, also he wants to kill himself. So both Flashes fight, and ultimately, though, when they both hit each other, that causes the Speed Force causes a sort of paradoxical effect where basically there's an explosion, and one of the blasts hits Wally because he was closest. That sends Blue Flash to the present. Present 5 years earlier, and kills regular Flash. And so with his dying breath, Barry tells Wally that Wally now has a connection with the Speed Force, and he should use his power responsibly and wisely. After Barry dies, Wally promises him that he's going to avenge him and go after this version that killed him. And basically, Blue Flash is in the current day, and he thinks to himself, and he realizes, okay, I can get my job done here, and the caption for the last page says, next time there's going to be 3 Flashes, which implies that Wally is going to show up, or rather, future Wally is going to show up in the present. Which, if you see the one shot, you can. Okay, this one's actually better. You can see Wally right here in his silver costume. Okay. This was actually a very good. I really like this one shot because it doesn't really tie into Future's End. Rather, it ties into what's going on in the current Flash title, and I like that. That's great. That was smart. That was a smart way of getting this whole one-shot event to tie into the current story, tie into what's going on in the series. I think that was a brilliant idea. And also, if older Wally is going to be going back to the past, I think meeting this version of himself might be the thing that might cause young Wally to go on a better path, so to speak. So yeah, really, if you've been liking the Flash so far, if you're reading the current story arc, you should definitely pick this up. It's worth it. All right, next up, Superman. Future's End. Basically, this features the masked Superman, and if you're like me and you avoided the internet to avoid the ending of Future's End number 17, which revealed who the masked Superman was, and you waited until this came out, the masked Superman is revealed to be Shazam, and Lois Lane figures out that Shazam is Billy Batson, and basically this issue is Billy explaining to Lois why he became the new Superman. Apparently during the war that happened with Earth 2, during the war, Billy and Black Adam were fighting some parademons, and during the fight, though, Billy was starting to get weak, and after the parademons were destroyed, Black Adam almost killed Shazam, but Superman showed up and banished Black Adam to the Phantom Zone, and told Billy that before Superman left to go to do this action that he said it sickens him, but it would end the war. And after that, Billy never saw Superman again. And so at the request of the Justice League, as Billy's own way of honoring Superman, Billy became the new Superman, so that way Superman's symbol would live on. And so basically Lois says that, it's a well-intended idea, but at some point you can't just live in someone else's shadow. You have to be yourself. But the conversation gets cut short when an old enemy of Shazam shows up and is causing trouble in Metropolis, Ibac. And Superman, I'm just going to throw that in quotation, goes and fights him, but of course Ibac knows that he's Shazam, and they fight, and Billy defeats him, but after the fight, though, Lois finds Billy, and he admits to her that, even though that this guy came looking for him, not Superman, so obviously he doesn't really need to be the new Superman in order to help help honor his enemies. Honor his memory. So Billy changes back to his classic Shazam costume and promises to protect Metropolis and live up to Superman's memory his own way. Okay, gotta admit, the reveal that, like I said, I avoided the internet about any spoilers about who the masked Superman is because I knew it was going to be brought up in this one shot that I was planning to get. So I avoided it, and when I found out it was Shazam, I wasn't really that surprised. Because basically when I read it, my reaction was, wait, he's Shazam? Oh my gosh, that makes total sense. So yeah, it was sort of a shock, but then it kind of sunk in that, you know what, this makes perfect sense. Why didn't I figure this out before? So yeah, but it's a good story because Superman, we don't know exactly, Kal-El, we don't know where he is exactly. Last time I heard in Future's End, Clark Kent was in Africa, and he's no longer being Superman, so it kind of answers the question, what are people doing without Superman? But it does have that same feeling of, it does remind me a little of Return of the Superman, where we had, after Superman's death, how we had the appearance of Steel, Superboy, Eradicator, and Cyborg Superman all claiming to be Superman, well, except Steel. So it kind of has that same feel to it, although ultimately Shazam did, at the end of the one-shot, decide to go back to using his old identity rather than just taking on Superman's. So it was pretty nice in a way like that. But also it's written by Dan Jurgens, so if you're expecting Dan Jurgens writing Superman, not exactly. He only writes it, doesn't do any artwork, but yeah, if you like Shazam, in a way, it's kind of good because DC is making a Shazam movie, and they are trying to bring Shazam into the limelight a little more, and I think that was a good thing that they did with this one shot in particular. So really, if you like Shazam, if you have been avoiding who the masked Superman is, then I would say get this book. Alright, now it's time for Marvel with Amazing Spider-Man 1.5. This is the conclusion to the Learning to Crawl story. Alright, so basically Peter is no longer Spider-Man. He's just using his spider powers to get good pictures of Clash's antics so that he can sell them to the Daily Bugle, which he uses to pay back all the people who he stole from to build that anti-sonic inverter. So basically Peter doesn't really, even though he knows Clash is causing a bunch of harm, he doesn't really want to doesn't really want to do anything about it because he feels like he failed the first time as Spider-Man and every time after that, so he shouldn't try anymore. But then Aunt May goes to talks to him about Uncle Ben and how he always did the right thing because he knew it was right, and how also at the same time he knew he also tried to make Peter laugh at every chance he got, and that inspires Peter to use a bunch of comebacks and antics whenever to try to be the funny guy when he's Spider-Man. So with a renewed sense of with great power comes great responsibility, Peter decides to resume wearing his spider costume under his civilian clothes, and the next day when Clayton Cole decides to visit Midtown High because he asked out Peter's ex-friend from the AV club, Polly, he starts approaching the school, but then thinks he can probably get a better welcome if he goes in as Clash, and of course everyone hates Clash, and so when Peter sees Clash again, he suits up into a Spidey costume and he goes after him. This time with all the clever comebacks and classic Spidey wit we all know. And while he's doing this, all the other kids are laughing at Clash, and fortunately his comebacks are enough to distract Clash so that he can get the upper hand, and he takes him down. And the issue basically ends with Spider-Man on a skyscraper saying that, reflecting on everything, realizing that there are going to be obstacles, but Uncle Ben always did the right thing because it was the right thing, and that's the true meaning behind with great power comes great responsibility. So from now on, he's going to do whatever he can. He asked Spider-Man to to do the right thing, and his career as Spider-Man is going to be, as he describes it, amazing. Okay, this was actually a very great conclusion to this story arc, and I know when I give the summary it sounds like I was just saying like it follows the formula of every Spider-Man story, but it doesn't. It's unique on its own, because this is a story that isn't really something you really need to read for the current Amazing Spider-Man series. It's just something extra that's in there that kind of, gives us a little more detail to Peter Parker's early year as Spider-Man. And it's good. We also got new characters. We got an expansion on all the other kids who went to Midtown with Peter Parker and Flash Thompson. We also got a new character, Clash. And also the final two pages of this issue are a double-page spread, and it's basically Spider-Man swinging off while in the background it's all these images from classic Spider-Man comics. So yeah, so really, I think this is great. I get the feeling that and here's the thing about Dan Slott on Spider-Man, he really doesn't do anything, create anything, unless he's going to come back to it later on, because I feel like the character I feel like one day, at some point on the rest of his run, he's going to bring back Clash at some point. Maybe if he's doing a one-shot with Peter Parker at a Midtown High reunion or something, like that will be when he's going to bring back Clash. That might be something. I really don't know exactly how he's going to do it, but I get the feeling he will bring back Clash at some point. And I think that's going to be very interesting to see. So yeah, Amazing Spider-Man Learning to Crawl, it's really not something that you need to read, but if you love Spider-Man, I think you're going to get a real kick out of it. So that's why I think if you can track down the issues, they're definitely worth it, or you can just wait for the trade to come out. Alright, next up, Cyclops, number 5. Cyclops. So after repairing the bounty hunter tracker from their ship's wreckage, bounty hunters come to the planet where Scott and Corsair are, and when bounty hunters come down, Corsair deals with the ones who are the landing party, while Scott goes and tries to take the ship, and he deals with the bounty hunter's sort of assistant, Sava, and Cyclops fights Sava until she reveals to him that apparently the leader of the bounty hunters is part of a species that swears an oath that they don't eat or drink until they accomplish their goal. In this case, it's getting the bounty, and so Scott makes a deal with Sava that he and his dad will surrender if she'll let them out of their holding cells while the other hunters are eating. So basically, Scott surrenders, and then he gets his dad to surrender, and he explains the plan. And so while the other bounty hunters are eating, Sava breaks them out, and Scott and Corsair fight them, get them into the cells, and then retake the ship for their own. Okay. Cyclops, really great series. I really do like it a lot, and one of the reasons is the great dialogue between Cyclops and his father Corsair, and you really see a lot of that, particularly when they're in their cells, and Corsair is asking Scott what the plan is. Asks, why did you let us get captured? Is it because this girl's cute? I don't blame you. He basically says, if she's cute, I understand, but rule 2, don't let your hormones do your thinking. and also, after they took the ship from the bounty hunters and they're driving, Corsair talks to Scott about how Savak sort of kept her word and her loyalty to the hunters, and saying that that's the difference, that's really a mark of honor and stuff. It's those moments between Corsair and Scott that really make me love this series, and most of that is done by the writer Greg Rucka, who unfortunately this is his last issue writing on the title. Next issue, John Layman. Wait, let me see. Yeah, John Layman. That's the name I have written down on the thing in front, right under my camera. And and also Scott's been getting better with his sword, which you really see in this issue, which is great. But yeah, overall, I think Cyclops is so far. I've been enjoying Cyclops. I liked all of the issues that Greg Rucka has written. Seriously, if you like Cyclops, but you're not really a big fan of the way he's being currently portrayed in Uncanny X-Men as a mutant revolutionary, then I'd say get this, because it definitely has the classic Cyclops feeling to it, but it's in space, which I like. So yeah, really. Also, checked some stuff out online, and apparently, once John Layman takes over, we are going to return to the space pirate, more space pirate theme of the book, and I think the Starjammers are going to return next issue. So yay. I would say Cyclops. So really, this issue is definitely a buy, but if you're a new reader, I'd say maybe wait for the first trade to come out, and then maybe start reading next issue, since we're going to have a new writer on the book. Yeah. Moving along. Guardians of the Galaxy number 19, continuing what happened in the Cancerverse and what the hell happened to Richard Riker. Well, let me just say that Guardians of the it opens up for the Cancerverse flashbacks. It opens up with Star-Lord trying to contain the power of the Cosmic Cube, but he can't, and he lets out a huge blast. And when Thanos is trying to goad him to giving him the cube, Star-Lord refuses and then uses the cube to basically blast Thanos and disintegrate him. Which is but unfortunately, Thanos comes back to life a few minutes later. Then he kills Star-Lord. But then Star-Lord comes back. Basically because, and basically our heroes, Star-Lord, Drax, Nova, they discover that, they kind of figure out that in the Cancerverse, nothing can die. Well, that was basically the concept from the Thanos Imperative, that it's basically a universe where life won over death. There is no dying, everyone comes back. Although I remember in the Thanos Imperative, when people died and came back, they became more demon-y because of something that universe's Captain Marvel did. But in this case, whenever Thanos and Peter come back, they're exactly how they left. And of course, right where they're talking about this world's version of the Avengers show up, who are known as the Revengers. And then we come back to the present, and Gamora's like, okay, Peter, now you're making all this up. This is getting ridiculous. And she leaves, but then Peter stops her and says, hey, you want to know about this? Well, you want to know what happened, and you can't just leave like this. You're going to hear the whole thing about what happened. And so Peter explains that it was basically three of them and Thanos fighting the Revengers for control of the Cosmic Cube. And Nova was able to get the cube, but unfortunately, the Revengers version of Captain America threw his shield and sliced off Nova's arm, which had the cube, and the Revengers got the cube, and that's where the issue ends. Okay, well, this was definitely a good issue. There was a really funny scene where after Peter came back to life, and the heroes kind of realized, okay, if anything dies, they'll just come back to life. And so this funny scene happens where Drax asks Thanos, does it hurt when you die? And he says, yes. And then Drax uses the cube to blow Thanos up. That was just hilarious. That was just something hilarious, and I immediately thought to myself, that's something they would do in the movies too. That is something that I could see Dave Bautista doing in one of the movies. He asked Thanos, that's just something that I think the movie version of Drax would also do, which is funny, and it goes back to the whole reason why Drax was created is so that he could kill Thanos, and obviously that's what Drax wants to accomplish. And also the thing about Nova losing an arm, I thought that was notable because that could be another reason why Richard Rider didn't come back to the regular universe. It's because I think two theories. One is that the Nova Force got so powerful. Well, Richard Rider was the last member of the Nova Corps until Sam Alexander. Anyways, but that's here and there. Anyways, he had the entire Nova. access to all the Nova Corps powers. And I think maybe with Richard's arm missing, he's suddenly losing control of the Nova Force, and it's making him unstable. And the energy's kind of spilling out, and he's unstable. So I think when it comes time for him to go back into the regular universe, he can't go because it'll be a danger for everyone, and it's too risky. So he decides to stay there and give Peter and Drax the opportunity they need to return home so that he can stay. So he basically sacrifices himself to get them back to the universe. The other theory is that Richard died Richard tried his best to hold off the Avengers and get Drax and Peter back to the regular universe, but he didn't make it. So yeah. Continuing this story arc, I still have no idea why we have the original Sin tag. This has nothing to do with the original Sin at all. But yeah, overall, if you liked the previous Guardians of the Galaxy series and you read Thanos Imperative and you're still curious about how Star-Lord and Drax came back to the regular universe and what's happening with Richard Riker, well, this is still where you're going to get your answer. And it's going to be concluded next issue. I cannot wait for that issue to come out. But overall, this one is definitely a buy. Alright, now Magneto number 10. Basically, this is kind of an interlude issue between, well, it's sort of a prequel to Uncanny Avengers number 24. Basically, picking up from last issue, after Magneto is captured by the Red Skull, he's basically being tortured by the turtle guy from the Red Skull's S-Men, while also Red Skull creates a mental avatar from Magneto's memories of the Nazi general that took from the flashbacks he had last issue. Basically, Red Skull uses Xavier's brain to create a mental sort of avatar of that character to sort of help with the torture of Magneto. And Magneto tries to escape the torture by basically going to all his past memories, but unfortunately, the general's following him in every memory he's in. It almost seems like Magneto's about to break, but then suddenly the Uncanny Avengers bust in and they're able to save Magneto. And right after they get him unshackled, Magneto bites down into his arm, which apparently contains a hidden capsule that has the MGH formula that he discovered a couple of issues ago. And right when Magneto bites it, he suddenly starts to get this surge of power within him. So yeah. Okay, I really thought this was a great issue. We pretty much get the high points of Magneto's life. It is interesting seeing Magneto. Obviously the premise of the series is Magneto dealing with the loss of level of power he once had before Avengers vs. X-Men. Now he's trying to learn everything over again. And in this, I think this is probably the most vulnerable we've seen Magneto in a while. He's basically being tortured by an old memory of a guy who made his life hell, and now all that's coming back, and he's going through every peaceful memory he has, and it's basically hurting him. And he almost breaks until he's saved by the Uncanny Avengers. And right when he's saved, he kind of realizes, okay, I should have done this when I got here. He activates the mutant growth hormone in him, and that basically gives him his power. That basically gives him a whole new level of power. So next issue, he's going to be fighting the Red Skull, and he might be back to his former level of power. Who knows? Who knows exactly what's going to happen, but really, I look forward to it. And also, this series does say March to Axis. Again, I don't know how big a role Magneto is going to be playing into Axis, but I think if you're going to be reading the event, you should probably be reading this issue, the last Magneto issue, as well as the last issue of Uncanny Avengers. Because like I said, this is also sort of a prequel to that, because it kind of addresses what was going on with Magneto in between the last Magneto issue and Uncanny Avengers number 24. So yeah, overall, I'd say if you're going to get Axis and you like Magneto, definitely pick up this series. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you again for watching my comic book reviews. Check out my other videos. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I'm Spider-Man 1991 saying, see you later.